The Interspecies Xenobiological Summit had all the charm of a funeral attended by tax auditors. Professor Keth Vore of the Xanthari Collective adjusted his crystalline ocular implants and surveyed the gathering with the sort of methodical precision that had made his species the galaxy's premier bureaucrats of death. Around the circular amphitheater of Kepler Station's main conference hall, representatives from 47 different civilizations sat in carefully climate-controlled pods, each maintaining their preferred atmospheric mixture while discussing the universe's most efficient killers. The void wraiths of Proxima Centauri remain the statistical leader in confirmed terminations per encounter, Keth Vore announced, his voice carrying the enthusiasm of someone reading insurance actuarial tables. Survival rate upon contact, 0.003%. Statistically impressive but ultimately pedestrian, hissed Coordinator Vex 9, her serpentine form coiled within a containment field that flickered with warning symbols. The Vex had evolved from something that resembled a cross between a cobra and a paranoia disorder. Raw lethality means nothing without context. The Crimson Devourers of the Helix Nebula display true artistry in their elimination protocols. They don't simply kill. They optimize the psychological trauma of witnesses. "Amateur hour," rumbled Ambassador Thok from his reinforced titanium pod. The hegemony representative looked like someone had crossbred a rhinoceros with a siege engine and given it anger management issues. "You're all thinking too small. The Omega parasites don't just end individual lives. They consume entire biospheres, planets, star systems. They're the reason we have the quarantine protocols." The assembled scientists nodded with the sort of respectful fear typically reserved for natural disasters and tax investigations. Each species had brought their nightmares to the table, creatures so monumentally lethal that entire civilizations had developed complex rituals just to avoid thinking about them too hard. "Fascinating perspectives," came a voice from the back of the amphitheater, "though I'm curious about your methodology." Every sensor, optical organ, and detection array in the room swiveled toward the source. In the observer section, which was supposed to be empty, sat a figure that looked remarkably mundane by galactic standards. Bipedal, carbon-based, wearing what appeared to be a simple fabric covering. No visible weapons, no apparent defensive modifications, no environmental suit despite the conference hall's standardized atmosphere being toxic to most carbon-based life forms. "Identification required." Vex 9's containment field flared brighter. "This is a restricted scientific summit." "Dr. Chen, Earth Xenobiological Research Division," the figure replied, standing with casual confidence. "Though I should mention that your invitation protocols might need updating. I've been here for 3 hours." The silence that followed carried the weight of 47 different species simultaneously calculating threat assessments. "Earth is not a recognized member of the Galactic Scientific Coalition," Keth Vore's implants whirred as they accessed databases. "Your species achieved spaceflight approximately 200 local years ago. Insufficient development period for meaningful xenobiological expertise. Plus, your homeworld isn't even cataloged in our lethal ecosystem databases," Thok added, his pod's defense systems humming to life. "No known apex predators of interstellar significance." Dr. Chen walked down the amphitheater steps with the sort of relaxed gait that made every predator instinct in the room start screaming warnings. "Oh, we're cataloged. Just not where you've been looking." "Impossible," Coordinator Vex 9's coils tightened. "The Vex maintain the most comprehensive threat assessment databases in known space. We monitor every species capable of interstellar violence." "Do you, though?" Dr. Chen settled into an empty pod designed for atmospheric breathing species, completely ignoring the various weapon systems tracking her movement. "I mean, you're all here discussing the universe's most dangerous creatures, but you're approaching it like a sporting event. Biggest claws wins. Most venomous bite takes the prize. It's almost cute. Cute? Ambassador Thok's pod registered seismic activity as his massive frame shifted. The Omega parasites have consumed 17 worlds, and the Crimson Devourers have psychologically traumatized entire star systems, Vex 9 added, while the Void Wraiths maintain a 99.997% kill rate, Kethvor concluded. Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Impressive numbers, though I have to ask, when you're calculating lethality, are you factoring in intelligence, adaptability, social cooperation, or are we just measuring who has the biggest teeth? Intelligence is irrelevant when facing a Void Wraith. Kethvor's implants flickered. They exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously and feed on quantum uncertainty. Social cooperation is meaningless against Crimson Devourers, Vex 9's field pulsed. They operate as a hive mind with the processing power of a star. Adaptability becomes irrelevant when Omega parasites consume the very concepts of survival and reproduction. Thok's weapons systems powered up another level. Right. Dr. Chen waved a hand dismissively. So you're all agreed that the most dangerous creatures in the universe are the ones that ignore conventional physics, operate beyond normal biological parameters, and can't be reasoned with or understood. Obviously, all three responded in unison. Interesting theory. Dr. Chen leaned back in her pod, completely unbothered by the fact that enough firepower to level a small moon was currently aimed at her. So tell me, what do you know about Earth's apex predators? The question hung in the recycled atmosphere, like a badly timed dinner party joke. 47 different species exchanged the sort of glances typically reserved for moments when someone asks if they remembered to turn off the planetary defense grid. Earth apex predators. Kethvor's database queries returned mostly blank results. Insufficient data for meaningful analysis. Your homeworld's threat level registers as negligible in our assessment matrices. Vex 9's coils had begun an agitated pattern that her species used when confused. We assumed your planet was one of those peaceful garden worlds. Thok's weapons systems finally powered down a fraction. Pastoral, harmless, the kind of place civilized species retire to. Dr. Chen's expression shifted into something that might have been a smile if you were feeling optimistic. Garden world. That's adorable, though I suppose from your perspective, it might look that way. No 11-dimensional nightmare creatures. No planet-consuming parasites. No hive minds powered by stars. Exactly, the assembled scientists agreed. Just curious, though, Dr. Chen continued, her tone carrying the sort of casual interest that made survival instincts start filing emergency reports. What would you say if I told you that Earth's most dangerous predator was sitting in this room right now? The silence that followed was the kind that occurs when 47 different species simultaneously realize they might have made a fundamental miscalculation. That would be impossible. Kethvor's implants began running emergency diagnostic routines. Our sensors detect no apex predator signatures. Perhaps that, Dr. Chen replied, is exactly the point. Well, since you asked so nicely, Dr. Chen produced a small data pad that seemed to materialize from nowhere, causing half the room's security systems to register phantom threats. Let me tell you about our wildlife. This should be entertaining, muttered Vex 9, though her coils had shifted into what behavioral analysts would recognize as a defensive posture. A backwater world lecturing the galactic community on predation. Dr. Chen scrolled through her data with the casual indifference of someone browsing a grocery list. Let's start simple. Sharks, cartilaginous fish, been around for about 400 million Earth years. They detect electrical fields generated by muscle contractions, can smell a single drop of blood in 25 gallons of water, and have replaced their teeth continuously for longer than your species have had written language. Primitive scavengers. Kethvor's analysis subroutines dismissed the data. No significant threat parameters. Oh, absolutely primitive, Dr. Chen agreed cheerfully. Which is why they survived 5 mass extinction events that wiped out 90% of all planetary life. But let's move on to something more contemporary. Polar bears. Obligate carnivores weighing up to 800 kilograms, capable of detecting prey beneath a meter of solid ice from 20 kilometers away. Large predators are hardly unique, Ambassador Thok rumbled. Size correlation with threat level is basic evolutionary mathematics. You're right. Size isn't everything. Dr. Chen swiped to the next entry. Take our honey badgers. 15 kilograms of concentrated malice that actively hunts venomous snakes for sport. Their skin is so loose and tough that they can be bitten by a cobra, take a brief nap while the venom works through their system, then wake up and finish eating their attacker. Something that might have been nervous laughter rippled through the assembly, though it was hard to tell with species that communicated through bioluminescent patterns and subsonic frequencies. Or consider our octopi, Dr. Chen continued, her tone maintaining that same helpful enthusiasm. Problem-solving intelligence comparable to your average Zenthari technician, completely alien neurological structure with distributed processing across 8 independently operating appendages, and the ability to alter their body chemistry to mimic any texture, pattern, or color in their environment within milliseconds. Camouflage is a defensive adaptation, Vex 9 protested, though her threat assessment matrices were beginning to register concerning patterns. Defensive, sure, Dr. Chen nodded agreeably. Unless you're a blue-ringed octopus, in which case you carry enough neurotoxin to kill 26 adult humans, and you're roughly the size of a golf ball. No antidote, by the way. Death typically occurs within minutes. The conference hall's environmental systems registered a subtle shift as 47 different species began unconsciously adjusting their atmospheric filters. But those are just the obvious ones, Dr. Chen scrolled further. Let me tell you about our parasites. We have a fungus that takes control of ant nervous systems, forcing them to climb to optimal spore dispersal locations before literally exploding their heads. We have wasps that inject paralytic venom into cockroaches, perform precise brain surgery to disable their escape responses, then use them as living nurseries for their offspring. Parasitic reproduction is hardly, Kethvor began. Oh, we're not done with the wasps, Dr. Chen interrupted with the kind of academic excitement that made scholars across the galaxy reach for their emergency communications devices. Some species practice hyperparasitism. They parasitize other parasites. We have wasps that specialize in finding other wasps that are parasitizing caterpillars, then parasitize the parasitic wasps while they're parasitizing the caterpillars. That's unnecessarily complex. Thok's pod systems registered minor seismic disturbances as he shifted uncomfortably. Nature abhors inefficiency, Dr. Chen agreed. Which brings us to our viruses, self-replicating genetic material that hijacks cellular machinery to reproduce, constantly mutating, jumping between species, and occasionally wiping out significant percentages of planetary population. We live with thousands of them constantly. Surely your medical technology. Oh, we don't fight most of them, Dr. Chen waved dismissively. We've weaponized the relationship. Our immune systems are essentially biological arms races that have been escalating for billions of years. We carry beneficial bacteria that help digest our food, regulate our neurotransmitters, and fight off harmful infections. Our bodies are walking ecosystems. The environmental systems were working overtime now as atmospheric compositions shifted throughout the amphitheater. And then there are our plants. Dr. Chen's datapad displayed a seemingly innocent image of a flowering tree. Venus flytraps that digest living prey. Trees that communicate through underground fungal networks spanning continents. flowers that mimic the scent of rotting flesh to attract carrion feeders, then trap them for days while slowly covering them in pollen. Plants are typically non-modal. Tell that to our bamboo, Dr. Chen laughed. Some species grow over 1 meter per day. You can literally watch them move. And speaking of moving plants, our kudzu vine can grow 60 feet in a single season and has been known to completely engulf buildings, vehicles, and small forests. Dr. Chen, Vex 9's containment field was now pulsing in patterns that typically preceded emergency evacuations. These examples, while comprehensive, hardly constitute apex predation. You're absolutely right, Doctor. Chen closed her datapad with a satisfied snap. These are just our background species, the things we coexist with daily. Most humans never see a polar bear or get stung by a blue-ringed octopus. These are just the supporting cast. Supporting cast? Kethvor's implants were now running full-spectrum analysis protocols. In Earth's ecosystem, everything I just described represents the normal baseline of biological interaction, Dr. Chen explained patiently. We have millions of species, most of which are trying to eat each other, poison each other, parasitize each other, or dissolve each other in acid. It's a planetary-scale experiment in evolutionary arms racing that's been running continuously for 3.8 billion years. And in this environment, Thok asked slowly, what exactly qualifies as an apex predator? Dr. Chen's expression shifted into something that definitely wasn't a smile, though it used all the same facial muscles. Would you like the scientific classification or the practical demonstration? The silence that followed lasted precisely long enough for 47 different species to simultaneously realize they had been asking the wrong questions. We'll take the scientific classification. Vex 9's voice carried the tone of someone who suspected they were about to regret their curiosity. Excellent choice, Doctor. Chen replied, and something in her tone suggested that maybe, just maybe, they had avoided a bullet they hadn't even seen coming. Dr. Chen stood and began pacing around the amphitheater's central platform with the measured gait of someone delivering a lecture on quantum mechanics to kindergarteners. The scientific classification of Earth's apex predator requires understanding a concept your databases seem to have missed: persistence hunting. Persistence hunting is a documented behavior among several species. Kethvor's implants hummed with retrieved information. Canids, some felines, certain avian species employ. Run prey to exhaustion over extended periods, yes, Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. But you're thinking too literally. Humans didn't just perfect persistence hunting. We evolved it into an art form that transcends biology. She gestured toward the assembled delegates with the sort of casual confidence that made threat assessment algorithms start filing error reports. We don't just run animals to death over hours or days. We run entire concepts to extinction over generations. Clarification required, Vex 9's coils had arranged themselves into patterns that xenobiologists would recognize as acute cognitive dissonance. Concepts cannot be hunted. Can't they? Dr. Chen's smile carried the warmth of a supernova in the microsecond before it sterilizes a solar system. Tell me, how many of your species still practice ritual warfare? The question landed with the subtlety of a collapsing star. Representatives from dozens of civilizations shifted uncomfortably as memories of ancestral traditions flickered through collective consciousness. Human diplomats visited our homeworld 3 decades ago, rumbled a voice from the Korthak delegation, a species that resembled ambulatory geology with anger issues. Fascinating discussions about conflict resolution and economic interdependence. And now, Dr. Chen prompted gently, now we have trade agreements, cultural exchange programs. Our warrior castes have been repurposed into competitive sports leagues. Remarkable, Dr. Chen turned to face Ambassador Thok. And the hegemony's expansion doctrine? How's that progressing? Thok's massive frame went very still. We have reconsidered our territorial acquisition strategies following consultations with human sociological advisors. Sociological advisors, Dr. Chen repeated, with the tone of someone savoring particularly fine wine. Not military attachés, not threat assessment specialists, sociologists. The amphitheater's atmospheric processors were working at maximum capacity now, cycling through 47 different environmental configurations as species-specific stress responses triggered automated safety protocols. This proves nothing. Kethvor's implants were cycling through analysis subroutines with increasing desperation. Diplomatic influence is hardly predation. Isn't it, though? Dr. Chen pulled up a holographic display that materialized from her seemingly innocuous datapad. Pattern recognition is another human specialty. We see connections that other species miss. For instance, did you know that every major galactic conflict in the past 50 years ended within 18 months of human involvement? Correlation does not imply. Causation, absolutely, Dr. Chen agreed cheerfully. Though it's fascinating how consistently humans happen to arrive just as civilizations discover the benefits of negotiated settlements. Almost like we can smell violence brewing from several star systems away. Coordinator Vex 9's field fluctuated wildly. The Vex maintain detailed records of all interspecies conflicts. Human involvement has been minimal. Oh, you noticed humans. Dr. Chen's expression shifted into something that suggested predatory satisfaction. How many humanitarian aid organizations did you detect? Cultural exchange programs? Scientific research expeditions? Tourism initiatives? The silence stretched long enough for several species to complete full threat assessment cycles. Those aren't military operations, Thok protested, though his voice carried significantly less conviction than it had an hour ago. No, they're not, Dr. Chen agreed. They're something much more efficient. Humans don't conquer territories. We make them want to be conquered. We don't eliminate competing species. We make them grateful to serve supporting roles in our ecosystem. That's absurd. Kethvor's systems were displaying error messages in 17 different crystalline languages. No species possesses that level of social manipulation. Social manipulation, Dr. Chen mused. Interesting phrase. Let me ask you something. How many humans are currently employed in administrative positions throughout galactic civilization? The question hung in the recycled atmosphere, while databases across 47 civilizations began running queries they had never thought to execute. Approximately 4 million, came a trembling voice from the Altarian delegation. Distributed across transportation networks, communication systems, resource allocation matrices, educational institutions. Research facilities, added another voice. Medical centers, whispered a third. Defense installations, Thok admitted with the tone of someone discovering a tumor. Dr. Chen nodded with academic satisfaction. 4 million humans in positions where they have access to infrastructure, information, and decision-making processes across galactic civilization. And that's just the ones you know about. You're describing parasitism. Vex 9's coils had twisted into configurations that her species typically reserved for existential crises. Parasitism implies harm to the host, Dr. Chen corrected gently. We prefer symbiosis. Your civilizations are healthier, more prosperous, and significantly less likely to extinct themselves since establishing relationships with humanity. This is impossible. Kethvor's crystalline structure was resonating at frequencies that indicated systemic stress. Our sensor networks would have detected coordinated infiltration attempts. Would they? Dr. Chen gestured toward the amphitheater's walls. Your sensors are designed to detect weapons, not wedding planners. Espionage equipment, not exchange students. Military formations, not medical volunteers. She paused to let that settle before delivering the killing blow. Tell me, which one of your species invented the concept of making war obsolete by making peace more profitable? The environmental systems gave up maintaining 47 different atmospheric compositions and defaulted to emergency life support, as every delegate in the chamber simultaneously experienced what their respective species considered the biological equivalent of a blue screen of death. Furthermore, Dr. Chen continued with the relentless patience of someone explaining basic arithmetic to particularly slow students. Humans have this charming habit of weaponizing abstract concepts. We turned curiosity into exploration. We transformed storytelling into cultural conversion. We converted hospitality into strategic positioning. But surely, Thok's voice carried the desperate hope of someone clinging to the last lifeboat on a sinking ship. There must be something that challenges human dominance, some threat that humans actually fear. Dr. Chen's expression underwent a transformation that made every survival instinct in the room start screaming evacuation protocols. Oh, absolutely. There is one creature in the known universe that genuinely terrifies humanity. One entity that represents an existential threat to our entire species. What is it? Vex 9 whispered. Another human, Dr. Chen replied, and the temperature in the amphitheater seemed to drop by several degrees. We are the only species we've encountered that poses a legitimate threat to ourselves. Every other creature you've described, your void wraiths, crimson devourers, omega parasites, they're dangerous, but they're predictable. They follow their programming. She gestured around the chamber with casual indifference to the fact that 47 different civilizations were simultaneously re-evaluating everything they thought they knew about the universe. Humans don't follow programming. We rewrite it. We don't adapt to environments. We modify environments to suit our preferences. We don't evolve. We engineer evolution. We don't just survive. We optimize survival into an art form that makes other species want to help us do it. And the most terrifying part, Dr. Chen concluded with the sort of academic enthusiasm that made educational institutions across the galaxy implement new safety protocols, is that we've only been doing this for about 10,000 years. We're barely getting started. The silence that followed was the kind that typically preceded either enlightenment or nervous breakdowns. Dr. Chen, Keth Vor's voice carried the hollow quality of someone whose worldview had just been replaced with something considerably more complicated. Why are you telling us this? Dr. Chen's smile returned, carrying all the warmth of a star preparing to go supernova. Because now that you understand what you're dealing with, we can discuss why you're really here. The holographic displays around the amphitheater flickered and reformed, revealing information that made 47 different species simultaneously question their understanding of reality. Detailed schematics of Kepler Station rotated slowly in three-dimensional space, but these weren't the blueprints any of them remembered approving. Congratulations, Doctor, Chen announced with the enthusiasm of someone presenting a surprise party to guests who hadn't realized they were attending their own funeral. You've just passed the preliminary screening for Earth's Interstellar Wildlife Management Program. Screening? Vex 9's coils had achieved configurations that xenobiologists would later classify as physically impossible under known gravitational constants. This was supposed to be an independent scientific summit. It was, Dr. Chen nodded agreeably, right up until the moment you all agreed to attend a conference on an abandoned research station that humanity just happened to have purchased last month. The atmospheric processors registered a simultaneous spike in stress pheromones from 47 different biologies as the implications cascaded through various cognitive architectures. The invitation protocols, Keth Vor's crystalline structure, was resonating at frequencies that typically preceded complete structural failure. The database entries, the neutral venue selection committee. All meticulously authentic, Dr. Chen confirmed. We simply anticipated your interest in apex predator research. Turns out, when you seed academic databases with just the right papers about interspecies lethality comparisons, competitive civilizations can't resist trying to one-up each other. She gestured toward the holographic displays with the casual pride of someone showing off vacation photos. Every species represented here submitted detailed threat assessments of their homeworld's most dangerous creatures. You even included behavioral analysis, habitat requirements, and containment protocols. Absolutely fascinating reading. Containment protocols. Ambassador Thok's voice carried the sort of dread typically reserved for discovering that your life insurance policy has been canceled by entities you didn't know existed. Oh yes, Dr. Chen's datapad projected a new series of images that made several delegates' emergency evacuation reflexes trigger simultaneously. The void wraiths you mentioned? Spectacular specimens. We've had a breeding pair in Facility 7 for about 3 years now. Turns out they're remarkably docile once you figure out how to feed them properly. That's impossible, Vex 9 protested. Void wraiths exist in 11 dimensions, simultaneously. They feed on quantum uncertainty. Quantum uncertainty generated by conscious observation, Dr. Chen corrected patiently. So we built them an observation chamber staffed entirely by artificial intelligences. No consciousness, no uncertainty, no feeding frenzy. They're actually quite pleasant once they're not constantly starving. The amphitheater's emergency lighting activated as life support systems struggled to process the atmospheric composition changes occurring throughout the chamber. And the Crimson Devourers? Kethvor asked, with the tone of someone who already suspected they didn't want to know the answer. Facility 12, Doctor. Chen replied cheerfully. Remarkable hive mind intelligence, but they respond beautifully to positive reinforcement training. We've got them working on theoretical mathematics problems. They seem to enjoy the intellectual stimulation. The Omega parasites, Thok whispered. Facility 3, Dr. Chen confirmed. Bit trickier, those ones. Had to develop a specialized containment ecosystem, but they're absolutely thriving. Did you know they're actually beneficial to planetary biospheres once you regulate their consumption rates? We're considering introducing controlled populations to some of the dead worlds in the Outer Rim. You've captured every apex predator we described. Vex 9's field generators were producing patterns that resembled a screaming geometric equation. Captured is such an ugly word. Dr. Chen looked genuinely offended. We prefer recruited. Most of them came voluntarily once we explained the benefits package. Guaranteed food supply, enrichment activities, comprehensive medical care, and no more worrying about territorial disputes. She swiped through several more images showing what appeared to be the galaxy's most terrifying creatures engaged in activities that could only be described as recreational. The Void Wraiths particularly enjoy our quantum puzzle chambers. The Crimson Devourers have become quite competitive about mathematical proofs. And the Omega parasites have taken up gardening. This is insane! Kethvor's implants were cycling through error messages in languages that hadn't been spoken for millennia. You're describing a collection of the universe's most lethal entities treated like pets? Dr. Chen suggested helpfully. Research partners? Colleagues? The terminology varies depending on their individual preferences and cognitive architectures. But why? Thok demanded. What possible purpose could this serve? Dr. Chen's expression shifted into something that combined maternal patience with the sort of scientific curiosity that had historically preceded major advances in applied physics. Because someone has to manage galactic biodiversity. Left to your own devices, civilizations tend to extinct anything that inconveniences them. We simply provide alternative solutions. Alternative solutions, Vex 9 repeated, with the hollow tone of someone whose reality had been replaced with something considerably more complicated. Consider it conservation work, Dr. Chen explained. Your species develop interstellar travel, encounter something that threatens your expansion plans, and immediately start researching military applications. Humans develop interstellar travel, encounter something that threatens our expansion plans, and start researching optimal habitat requirements. The holographic displays shifted to show facility layouts, creature comfort assessments, and what appeared to be customer satisfaction surveys filled out in languages that shouldn't have been comprehensible to human neural architecture. Of course, proper wildlife management requires extensive research staff, Dr. Chen continued, with the sort of professional enthusiasm that made academic recruitment offices across the galaxy implement new screening procedures. Which brings us to your current situation. Our current situation? Kethvor asked, though his voice suggested he was beginning to suspect the answer. You're all experts in apex predator biology with detailed knowledge of containment protocols. Dr. Chen gestured around the amphitheater with obvious satisfaction. Plus, you've just demonstrated remarkable analytical capabilities under pressure, exactly the sort of qualifications we look for in research associates. Research associates, Thok repeated slowly. Excellent benefits package, Dr. Chen assured him. Comprehensive health coverage, retirement planning, and the satisfaction of contributing to one of the galaxy's most important conservation efforts. Plus, you'll be working with some of the universe's most fascinating creatures. And if we decline? Vex 9 asked, with the sort of careful neutrality that suggested she already suspected the answer. Dr. Chen's smile acquired the quality of someone explaining basic physics to students who had just asked whether gravity was negotiable. Well, you're currently aboard a research facility that houses approximately 47 different species of apex predators. You've just received classified information about humanity's most sensitive conservation projects, and you're several hundred light-years from the nearest non-human settlement. She paused to let that information percolate through 47 different threat assessment matrices before delivering the final observation. Plus, you did ask to see Earth's most dangerous predator, and here I am, offering you the opportunity to study them up close in a controlled environment with full safety protocols and comprehensive insurance coverage. The silence that followed was the kind that typically preceded either enlightenment or complete systemic breakdown. Dr. Chen, Kethvor finally managed, when you said there was one creature that genuinely terrified humanity. Oh, that's still true, Dr. Chen replied, with the sort of academic honesty that made educational institutions across the galaxy revise their liability policies. The most dangerous thing in the known universe is still a human who decides they want something. The difference is, now you get to work for them instead of against them. She gestured toward the facility schematics with obvious pride. Welcome to Earth's Interstellar Wildlife Management Program. I think you're going to find it's exactly the sort of challenge your species have been looking for. And somewhere in the depths of Kepler Station, something that might have been laughter echoed through corridors that housed the galaxy's most beautiful nightmares, all of them perfectly content in their new careers as humanity's favorite research subjects. After all, someone had to fetch them when they were called.